Friends, let's be honest. Sometimes life just feels incredibly heavy. You give it your all, you push through, yet things still manage to fall apart. And in those moments, it's so easy to point fingers at the world, your past, your parents, your education, or just plain bad luck. But what if I told you that your brain is actively listening to every single thought you have? It archives every belief you repeat, and it acts on every fear you feed it. The plain truth is, real success begins in your mind, not with your job, not with your circumstances, not even with your family. If you truly want to transform your life, the very first step is to convince your brain that it's actually possible. Your brain literally becomes what you feed it. Your thoughts sculpt your future. Every single thought you have is a seed. Plant fear, and you'll harvest hesitation. Plant belief, and you'll cultivate courage. It sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? Yet, most people never pause to genuinely examine what they're pouring into their minds. Think about it. The words you whisper to yourself daily, the narratives you replay, the labels you accept, all of these conspire to forge your brain's reality. And your brain, without fail, will follow the story you tell it most often. If you wake up each day thinking, "I'm just not good enough," your brain will begin to internalize that. It will start filtering the entire world through that specific lens. You'll spotlight every failure, every rejection, every single flaw, while effortlessly overlooking every strength, every compliment, every achievement. That's the sheer power your brain wields. It listens, then it orchestrates your actions around what it hears. You don't merely stumble into failure. You meticulously train your mind to expect it, and your life then obediently reshapes itself to fit that expectation. But here's the powerful flip side. The exact same process works in reverse. If you begin to feed your brain strength, focus, and belief, it listens to that too. This transformation isn't an overnight miracle. It's like building a muscle. You don't get strong after one gym session. You get strong because you consistently show up, even on those days you absolutely don't feel like it. The same principle applies to your thoughts. You have to consciously direct your brain with positivity every single day, especially when the days are tough. Here's the blunt truth nobody really talks about. Negativity is easy. Doubt comes effortlessly. Complaining, a breeze. The truly hard part is actively choosing strength when it would be so much simpler to just give in and be weak. That's the core difference between people who grow and people who stay trapped. Those who move forward aren't necessarily endowed with more talent. They're simply more consistent in training their minds. They catch those sneaky negative thoughts and swap them out for better ones. Not perfect ones, just better. That's all it takes. Consistently practicing better thoughts. You don't need to lie to yourself or pretend everything is sunshine and roses. You just need to genuinely remind yourself that you are capable, that you're allowed to learn, that you're allowed to try again. That one misstep doesn't brand you a failure. That one rotten day doesn't erase a lifetime of effort. These are the kinds of thoughts your brain truly needs to hear. Not hollow, fake positivity, but honest, grounded, hopeful thinking. And over time, something truly remarkable starts to happen. Your brain stops automatically defaulting to fear. It begins to lean into courage. It starts anticipating progress instead of expecting failure. And that subtle shift, that daily mental workout, starts to permeate everything. Your choices, the way you speak, how you carry yourself, how you respond to life's inevitable curveballs. Suddenly, success doesn't feel like some distant, unattainable goal. It feels like something you are already embodying from the inside out. In fact, most people don't even realize they're trapped, not by concrete walls or steel bars, but by words they've whispered to themselves so often that they've solidified into truth. I'm not smart enough. People like me don't succeed. I always mess things up. These aren't facts. They're just phrases someone heard once, believed twice, and then repeated 1,000 times until their own brain bolted the door and tossed away the key. You don't need to be physically restrained to be stuck. All it takes is a thought you never bother to challenge. Negative beliefs are quiet. They don't shout, they whisper. You hear them when you want to try something new and suddenly feel a jolt of fear. You hear them when someone offers a compliment and your first instinct is to bat it away. You hear them in the silence, in the doubt, in the hesitation. And the worst part? Your brain doesn't even argue, it just obeys. If you declare, "I can't," your brain stops searching for how you could. If you say, "I don't deserve this," your brain will actively help you sabotage it. If you proclaim, "It's too late for me," your brain won't waste energy trying to prove you wrong. That's the insidious danger of unchallenged thoughts. They grow, they interlace with other thoughts. "I'm bad at this" morphs into "I'm a failure." "No one helped me" becomes "no one ever will." And before you know it, your entire identity becomes inextricably wrapped around an idea that was never true to begin with. That's the invisible prison. You walk through life dragging chains only you can see. And no one on the outside will set you free, because they don't even know you're locked in. It doesn't start with grand declarations. It starts with small, subtle shifts. Instead of "I can't," you say, "I'm learning." Instead of "I'm not good at this," you say, "This is new for me." Instead of "They'll never pick me," you say, "Why not me?" And every single time you rephrase a sentence, your brain listens. Every time you interrupt a negative thought, you chip away at the walls around you. It's slow, it's often mundane, it's certainly not Instagram-worthy, but it works, because your brain is always listening. And eventually, it starts to repeat the new script. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Your brain absolutely loves patterns, even unhealthy ones, especially familiar ones, because they feel safe. So when you start to break free from those old beliefs, it'll feel wrong at first. It will feel awkward to be kind to yourself. It might even feel fake to imagine yourself succeeding. That's not because you're lying, it's because your brain hasn't adjusted yet. And if you give up in that moment, the old beliefs win again. That's why awareness is everything. You have to catch the thought before it takes root. You need to be able to say, "Wait, where did that come from?" before you act on it. Because beliefs shape behavior. Behavior shapes life. And if you never question the belief, your life will never truly change. You'll keep winding up in the same familiar places, bumping into the same walls, forever wondering why things feel stuck. You are not broken. You've simply been programmed. And the incredible news is, programming can be rewritten. But you must stop feeding the same old script that hurt you. You must stop repeating the words that limited you. You must stop carrying the story that someone else wrote for you. Because the day you stop repeating it is the day your mind finally becomes free to write something entirely new. To achieve this, replace doubt with daily positive rituals, understanding that consistency rewires the mind. Doubt doesn't politely knock on your door and introduce itself. It slips in quietly, masquerading as hesitation, second-guessing, procrastination, or even being realistic. And once it gets comfortable, it becomes your default setting. You wake up already questioning yourself. You hesitate before speaking. You overthink every single decision. It becomes so normal that you don't even realize it's doubt. You just assume it's your personality. But it's not. It's a habit, and like any habit, it can be replaced. The only way to conquer doubt isn't by fighting it head-on, but by building something stronger in its place. That something is a routine, a daily ritual that continuously reminds your brain what to believe. Because here's the thing, your brain learns through repetition. You tell it something once, it shrugs. You tell it 100 times, it starts to listen. You tell it every single day with action, and it finally obeys. That's why one motivational video won't transform your life, but a habit repeated daily will. Positive rituals don't have to be complicated. You don't need hours of free time, perfect silence, or expensive tools. You need small, simple, consistent acts that train your brain to expect more from you. Wake up and jot down 3 things you're grateful for, not to be poetic, but to genuinely remind your brain that beauty still exists. Look in the mirror and speak to yourself with respect, not because it's magic, but because your brain needs to hear your own voice say something kind. Read one page from a book that inspires growth. Move your body, even if it's just for 5 minutes. Breathe with intention before you even glance at your phone. These aren't just routines, they are powerful signals. And your brain is constantly scanning for signals. When you perform the same small act every day, your brain starts to attach meaning to it. That morning gratitude list? It becomes tangible proof that life isn't all bad. That moment of stillness before the chaos? It becomes proof that you possess the ability to create peace within your own mind. That walk you take when you're frustrated? It becomes proof that you don't have to wallow in your emotions forever. These things start small, but small doesn't equate to weak. Small means sustainable, and sustainable means truly transformational. The people who seem unshakable aren't fearless, they are trained. They've taught their minds to pause before reacting. They've practiced responding thoughtfully instead of panicking. And all of that comes from repetition, from doing the mental push-ups when no one is watching, from choosing to show up for themselves before the world even asks anything of them. That's what rewiring looks like. It's not flashy, it's not loud, but it is steady. If your mind is constantly plagued by doubt, you're not broken, you're simply underpracticed in self-belief. And practice always begins with a choice. You don't wait for motivation. You don't wait for the perfect mood. You pick one thing, one ritual, and you commit to doing it every single day like it's your job, because it is. Your mind is your responsibility, and if you want it to champion your success, you have to train it to do that. Not with occasional bursts of inspiration, but with consistent action. Doubt weakens when discipline strengthens, and discipline grows when you show up for yourself again and again until it feels as natural as breathing. Success begins when you take control of your inner dialogue, not when you get a promotion, not when the world finally acknowledges you, not when everything feels picture perfect. Success begins the moment you stop letting your thoughts run wild and start consciously choosing what stays and what goes. Most people spend their entire lives listening to a voice in their head that isn't even truly theirs. It's a jumble of old criticism, past failures, schoolyard bullies, cultural pressures, and childhood fears. And yet, they believe it without question. That voice becomes the unwavering narrator of their story, and they never realize they possess the power to change the script. Your inner dialogue is the most constant conversation you will ever have. You speak to yourself more than you speak to anyone else. And the tone, the words, the assumptions within that dialogue, they shape your confidence, your choices, your reactions. When that internal voice whispers that you're not enough, you begin to shrink. You second-guess yourself in meetings. You over-explain yourself in relationships. You say yes when every fiber of your being wants to say no. You hold back because the voice insisted you'd mess it up anyway. That voice doesn't have to scream to inflict damage, it just needs to be consistent. The good news is, you are not stuck with that voice. You can challenge it. You can change it. You can teach it an entirely new way to speak. But it demands awareness. You have to start noticing what you're telling yourself when things go wrong. Are you kind or cruel? Are you forgiving or punishing? When someone gives you a compliment, do you truly accept it, or do you reject it internally before even cracking a smile? These are the subtle indicators of an inner dialogue that desperately needs rewiring. And it all begins with interrupting those automatic, ingrained patterns. The next time your mind declares, "I always fail," stop it. Ask, is that truly the case every single time? The answer, almost without exception, will be no. The next time your thoughts drift to, "I'm not good at this," deliberately shift it to, "I'm still learning this." These aren't just clever tricks, they're vital mental corrections. You're not lying to yourself. You're breaking a destructive loop. You're choosing to speak in a way that propels you forward instead of keeping you pinned down. Controlling your inner dialogue isn't about becoming relentlessly positive all the time. It's about becoming intentional. It's about making a firm decision that you won't let a bad mood dictate your entire day. It's about refusing to allow the version of you from 5 years ago to control what today looks like. You are absolutely allowed to speak to yourself with patience. You are allowed to extend the same encouragement to yourself that you freely give your friends. That's not arrogance. That's mental responsibility. Over time, your brain adjusts. It starts to anticipate gentler language. It becomes less sensitive to failure, more receptive to growth, less reactive to criticism, and more trusting in your own unique process. And that's when genuine confidence begins to blossom, not as a loud, flashy performance, but as a quiet, unwavering understanding that you can handle whatever life throws your way. It's not about believing you're the best. It's about knowing you're trying your best and treating yourself like someone truly worth supporting. This profound shift doesn't happen in a single day. It happens in countless small moments. A brief pause before a negative thought takes hold. A breath before you utter something harsh to yourself. A small, reassuring sentence like, "I can figure this out," instead of, "I'm so dumb." These are the tools. This is the work. It's not glamorous, it's not always easy, but it is incredibly powerful. Because when you seize control of your inner dialogue, you stop being your own enemy. You stop playing against yourself, and you finally give yourself the authentic chance to succeed, unburdened by the constant weight of your own voice dragging you down. Use failures as mental strength training, not identity. Failure is deeply uncomfortable, and that's precisely why most people go to great lengths to avoid it. They meticulously construct their lives around safety, routine, and predictable choices, not because they lack talent, but because they are utterly terrified of being seen falling short. Somewhere along the way, we were taught that failure is shameful, that it's a permanent label, not merely a temporary experience. And once you start perceiving it as a label, it inevitably becomes your identity. "I failed" transmutes into "I am a failure." And those words are heavy. They settle deep inside your mind and echo relentlessly every time you even consider trying again. But failure isn't a name tag. It's a weight. And like any weight, it's meant to be lifted, not worn indefinitely. The individuals who truly grow are the ones who learn to lift that weight, again and again, even when it aches. They refuse to let failure define them. Instead, they allow it to refine them. That's the fundamental difference between those who remain stuck and those who ultimately rise. Those who rise don't pretend failure never happened. They simply refuse to let it write their final chapter. When you falter at something, your brain instinctively tries to protect you. It whispers for you to retreat, to avoid the risk, to spare yourself from further embarrassment. And if you heed that voice without questioning it, you stop. You pull back. You hesitate the next time an opportunity arises. You subtly lower your standards, not because you want to, but because you're terrified of the emotional cost. And slowly, imperceptibly, your life gets smaller, not because you failed, but because you never dared to try again. The truth is, failure is simply data. It provides invaluable information. What didn't work? What needs fine-tuning? What boundaries were inadvertently crossed? What skills were missing? But the emotional part of the brain doesn't care for data. It craves stories. So it constructs a narrative that you're not meant for this, that you lack what it takes, that you're too late, too slow, too weak. And your crucial job is to interrupt that story. Your job is to remind yourself that pain isn't proof you're doing it wrong. Sometimes, it's proof that you're getting stronger. People often forget that mental strength isn't forged in comfort. It's built in failure, in awkwardness, in rejection, in profound disappointment. The mind doesn't expand when everything sails smoothly according to plan. It grows when it's forced to recover, to recalibrate, and to re-engage. Think of the people you admire, not because they succeeded effortlessly, but because they kept going when every logical reason suggested they shouldn't. That's the muscle. That's the training. It's not about pretending to be fearless, but about choosing to move forward while carrying the fear anyway. The next time you stumble, pause. Feel it. Let the sting register. Then ask yourself, what did I genuinely learn? Not as a trite cliché, but as a deeply honest inquiry. What new understanding crystallized within you? What do you now know that you didn't before? Because every single failure adds a new tool to your mental toolbox, even if it's just the skill of getting back up faster. The people who consistently bounce back aren't emotionally numb, they're simply well-trained. They understand how to absorb the blow, breathe through the discomfort, and then step forward with a fresh strategy. You are not here to be perfect. You are here to be persistent. You're not expected to get it right the first time. You are meant to keep adjusting, to keep strengthening, to keep becoming. And failure is an integral part of that sacred process. It doesn't need to be hidden away in shame. It needs to be honored. Because the person who failed and found the courage to stand up again is always stronger than the person who never dared to try at all. Your story gains depth, richness, and honesty every time you choose growth over shame. Furthermore, your environment matters, so surround yourself with growth. People love to believe they're independent thinkers, immune to influence, untouched by their surroundings. But the undeniable truth is, no matter how robust your mindset, your environment will undeniably shape you. Your brain is constantly listening, constantly absorbing, constantly adapting. If you dwell in a space permeated by negativity, gossip, fear, and limitation, it will inevitably seep into your thoughts. No matter how many self-help books you devour or affirmations you repeat, you ultimately become what you consume, and people are a huge part of that consumption. Look around you and honestly ask, do the people in your closest circle challenge you, or do they drain you? Do they speak with conviction and belief, or with resignation and defeat? Do they celebrate your progress, or do they subtly question your ambition? Because if you are perpetually surrounded by small-minded thinking, it's only a matter of time before you start shrinking your own dreams to fit comfortably within the room. Growth often feels awkward, even rebellious, in environments not designed to support it. And most people, deep down, don't want to outgrow their circle. So they unconsciously start self-sabotaging, just to remain comfortable and safe with the people they know. Comfort is a powerful addiction. It whispers not to rock the boat. It tells you to stay exactly where people already know you, where your habits are familiar, where your mindset is never challenged. But true growth is not polite. It disrupts. It changes conversations. It shifts priorities. And when you genuinely begin to grow, you start to feel a distinct tension. The jokes that once made you laugh suddenly feel hollow. The complaints that used to bond you with others now make you profoundly uncomfortable. The late-night scrolls, the mindless distractions, the petty drama, they all lose their grip on you. That, my friend, is the signal that you are ready for something more. Changing your environment isn't always about abruptly cutting people off. Often, it's about consciously creating space for individuals who reflect where you're headed, not just where you've been. Sometimes that means spending less time with the loud, distracting voices and more time in quiet contemplation with mentors, with inspiring books, with spaces that actively push you forward. It means becoming fiercely intentional about what fills your time and who energizes your spirit. You start asking yourself if the people around you fuel your clarity or merely confuse your purpose. And when the honest answer is no, you begin to shift. Not because you're suddenly better, but because you are actively becoming. It's easy to remain stuck when everyone around you is stuck. It feels normal. Struggle becomes the common language. But when you immerse yourself in a room where people are actively building, creating, risking, and learning, something profound awakens within you. You stop making excuses. You stop blaming your past. You start asking better questions. You begin transforming into the kind of person who doesn't just dream, but actually moves. Because when you witness it being done, it becomes believable for you. When you hear stories of unwavering persistence, your brain automatically rewires itself for hope. That is the undeniable power of proximity. Your brain mirrors what it frequently sees. It copies patterns. It echoes language. It absorbs energy. So if you want to train your brain for success, your environment cannot be left to chance. You have to be selective, not arrogant, but protective, not distant, but discerning. You deserve to occupy spaces where you are consistently reminded of your vast potential, not your perceived limits. Where your nascent ideas aren't mocked, but carefully molded. Where your hard-won progress isn't threatening, but genuinely celebrated. And yes, such spaces may be rare. They may take time to cultivate, but they are absolutely worth every effort. Creating a growth environment doesn't mean you need to be around perfect people. It means you need to be around individuals who are trying, who are honest, who are disciplined, who show up even when it's hard, who offer truth when you need correction, and unwavering belief when you feel small. Your environment will either stretch you or shrink you, support you or suffocate you. You don't have to burn bridges, but you absolutely do have to build better rooms. Then, discipline your mind to focus, not wander. In a world that relentlessly tugs your attention in 100 different directions, focus has become a rare and invaluable superpower. Every incessant beep, every endless scroll, every instant message, each is a distraction cleverly packaged as importance. And your brain, inherently wired to seek novelty, eagerly follows every tantalizing trail it spots, even if it leads nowhere productive. Most people aren't failing due to a lack of ambition. They're failing because they're simply too distracted to complete what they started. Their precious energy is scattered across too many open tabs, too many fleeting thoughts, too many opinions that were never truly their own to begin with. Focus isn't something you passively wait for, it's something you actively create. You meticulously train your brain to stay anchored where your feet are, to finish one thing completely before moving to the next. To sit with discomfort without desperately escaping into noise. That kind of rigorous training doesn't happen by accident. It materializes through deliberate, consistent practice. Just as your muscles grow stronger when you lift weights, your focus sharpens dramatically when you resist the constant pull of distraction. But most people don't resist. They give in, and then they wonder why their goals still feel perpetually out of reach. Your mind will invariably wander unless you give it a compelling reason not to. It's not inherently lazy, it's intensely curious. It craves stimulation. It gravitates towards the path of least resistance, and scrolling, complaining, multitasking are all temptingly easy paths. Discipline is what teaches your brain that easy isn't always useful. Discipline is the unwavering inner voice that says, "We're staying here. We're doing this, even if we're bored, even if we're tired, even if no one else is watching." That internal command, repeated daily, is precisely how focus is built, not in one dramatic moment of motivation, but in quiet, consistent choices. Start small. Pick one task, set a timer, block out all distractions, and just begin. Not because you feel like it, but because you promised yourself you would. That's where focus genuinely begins. With a promise, with intention, with the firm decision that your goals hold more value than your momentary comfort. And the more you honor that promise, the more your brain learns to trust you, the more your thoughts organically align with your actions, the more you stop negotiating with your excuses. People often mistakenly believe discipline is synonymous with restriction. But true discipline is actually freedom. The freedom to make tangible progress. The freedom to not be controlled by every fleeting impulse. The freedom to consistently finish what you start. Focus gifts you back your time. It restores your energy. It bestows clarity in a world that thrives on pervasive confusion. When you master focus, you stop chasing everything. You start systematically building something substantial. There will always be noise. There will always be something urgent, something tempting, something seemingly easier. Your critical job is to decide what truly matters. Your job is to train your mind to say no, not just to external distractions, but to the ingrained belief that you need to be everywhere, do everything, know everything. You don't. You simply need to do the next right thing with your full, undivided attention. One task executed exceptionally well is far more powerful than 10 tasks started and abandoned halfway through. 1 hour of genuine focused work is more valuable than an entire day of scattered, half-hearted effort. The discipline to focus isn't glamorous. It's repetitive. It's often uncomfortable, but it is the undeniable path to achieving goals, not through sporadic bursts of effort, but through sustained hours of deliberate action. Focus is how you cut through the relentless noise. It's how you precisely separate what's merely urgent from what's truly important. It's how you become excellent at what you do, not by doing more, but by dedicating your full presence to what matters most. And once your brain learns that powerful rhythm, it stops chasing chaos. It starts craving depth. And in that depth, success quietly resides, patiently waiting to be earned. Finally, remember that forgiveness is a mental detox, so let go to grow. People often mistakenly believe forgiveness is a gift you bestow upon the other person, but it's not. It's a profound cleansing process for your own mind. When you cling to resentment, bitterness, and old anger, you're not actually punishing the person who hurt you. You are, in fact, punishing yourself every single time you replay that memory. Your brain holds onto those moments as if they're still happening. The emotion repeats, the pain resurfaces, and you find yourself living inside that old story long after the chapter should have unequivocally ended. That kind of emotional weight slows you down, clouds your thinking, and effectively blocks your progress. The human mind is not designed to harbor grudges indefinitely. It's meant to learn, to adjust, and ultimately to release. But when you stubbornly refuse to forgive, your brain remains trapped in an endless replay loop. It constantly scans for evidence of past pain. It seeks out signs of betrayal. It anticipates disappointment. And in doing so, it severely limits your capacity to trust, to heal, to dare to try again. Unforgiveness becomes a distorting filter, and everything in your life starts to be viewed through its murky lens. Relationships suffer. Self-esteem erodes. Opportunities appear risky, not because they actually are, but because your mind is overburdened with too much emotional baggage to perceive clearly. Letting go doesn't equate to forgetting. It doesn't mean pretending it never happened. It means consciously choosing not to carry it anymore. It means confronting what hurt you, acknowledging its impact, and then firmly deciding that it will not dictate your future. Forgiveness isn't a sign of weakness. It's a testament to immense strength, strong enough to release what is actively poisoning your peace. It represents mental clarity, emotional discipline, and spiritual fortitude, and it is absolutely essential if you want your mind to operate at its highest, most effective level. Your brain simply cannot focus on building if it's perpetually busy defending itself. When you're ensnared by resentment, your thoughts become defensive, not creative. You're far more prone to pushing people away, misinterpreting situations, and inadvertently sabotaging your own growth. You might convince yourself you're protecting yourself, but in reality, you're merely keeping yourself small. You're guarding old wounds that should have been thoroughly cleaned, not worshipped. Forgiveness is the crucial mental reset that allows your brain to transition from merely surviving to truly thriving again. Forgive others not necessarily because they always deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You deserve to stop endlessly replaying conversations in your head that occurred years ago. You deserve to wake up without that oppressive heaviness. You deserve to stop reacting from a place of old pain. And just as vitally, forgive yourself. You cannot grow if you are relentlessly punishing yourself for who you once were. You cannot evolve if you don't truly believe you are allowed to begin again. The past is unchangeable, but your relationship to it absolutely can be. Forgiving yourself is often one of the hardest things you will ever undertake. Because your brain remembers your own mistakes more vividly, more painfully, than anyone else's. It replays those moments you desperately wish you could undo. It highlights your flaws in excruciating high definition. But that memory isn't designed to punish you, it's meant to teach you. You're not supposed to erase your failures, you're supposed to grow from them. And that essential growth is only possible if you release the crippling shame attached to them. Create expansive space in your mind for new thoughts by actively clearing out the old. That is what forgiveness truly is, a mental detox. It's choosing to feel lighter. It's deciding to channel your precious energy into the future, not into the past. And you commit to doing it over and over again, not because it's easy, but because it is profoundly healing. Every time you forgive, your brain learns it's safe to move forward. Every time you release a grudge, your mind frees up invaluable capacity to focus, to love, to build, to dream. That fertile space you create by letting go becomes the rich soil where your next chapter can finally bloom.